Hey, what's up, guys? This is Brian from Whisper Status 74, and this is a game settings video. This video is from my boy Gookie290, who asked me a question about HDR and regular game settings. Because HDR has that backlight or brightness, depending on your manufacturer, Sony has it as as brightness, which is the backlight. Should it be set to max even when you're not playing HDR titles? And that's a legit question considering our infatuation with peak brightness, and we want the display to be as bright as possible. Now, the problem with this is, especially with Samsung and some of the companies that have high saturation, is that you can get an extremely bright picture, except the problem is it really washes out the image. And with my Samsung displays in the past, when I went brighter, I ended up washing it out, even though the pictures were very vibrant. So the question is, does it have to be set to max? The answer is no. HDR content in both movies and games does deepen and darken the image. So what they need to do is every manufacturer goes into an HDR mode and then increases the backlight to max. The contrast in some companies, extended dynamic range, gamma gets set to neutral, and you want your display to be in HDR, that's the caveat. You have to do that. With regular game mode settings, you do not. But it does lead me to a different situation. We all want settings from Artings, a lot of other companies want them, or YouTubers, to tell us what we should do and what is correct. Now, with other websites, Vincent comes to mind, Artings, AVS forums, they're really looking for the most correct image, things to be correct, natural, in the right color spectrum, in the right color gamut. Now, the only problem with that, guys, and there's no problem with it at all, as it's completely accurate. The question is, will you like it? Have you ever put in a calibration and said to yourself, I guess that looks okay? When it comes to gaming, or even movies, we want things to pop. So what this video is really about is you're looking at Gears of War Ultimate Edition on PC. It is a non-HDR title, and my settings, quickly, these are my regular PC settings. They're very vanilla. The backlight is at 30, not at 100, and it looks very, very bright. The color's at 55. A lot of this other stuff is off. Now, the question a lot of you guys have is, well, why can't I turn the other stuff on? My answer to that is, you can. And it all depends on what you like. Now, with a Devil May Cry coming out, messing with all these different settings, I put everything up to max in terms of extended dynamic range, live color, and I was actually pretty happy with how the image looked. Now, is the image correct? My point is, guys, who's to say? If your image, if your quality is good enough. So, for example, with Xbox 360 and PS3, turning on extended dynamic range or dynamic contrast or vivid mode really never looked good because the content couldn't take it. The resolution wasn't high enough. Well, when you're watching a Pixar animated film, that's good content. You're able to then push your dynamic range and those things up high to get the sharpest, most vibrant image. So what I'm going to do is switch from my current PC settings, these are my old ones, to the new ones, and you tell me what you think. These are the current, more natural, vanilla ones. And here are the new ones. These are the settings that I normally keep off that are now on. Alright, so we're going to go back to the other ones. Remember, these are more vivid settings. And here's the more natural. So, the question is, which do you guys like better? And that's really all that matters. One of them is, in theory, correct. And the other one may look better. I mean, it's a video game. I don't care if it looks cartoony or jumps off the page. It all depends on the content that you are playing and you're watching. And more importantly, it all depends on what you guys like. So quickly, what settings were on high? All the ones that people tell you to turn off. But my point is, don't be afraid to use these settings. I kept my brightness at 30. Advanced contrast enhancer. Or dynamic range, or what you guys have a bunch of different ones on your displays. Okay, cleans that up. The content seems to be able to take it. Extended dynamic range I don't use for non-HDR, especially in movies. See what it does. I like it. And the last one, color. live color. It's not the true colors. Pretty deep though. I like that too. So what am I trying to say? Or, you know, you can even go into resolution scaling. Is when you ask other people for calibration settings, I would never call them calibration. There is no machinery hooked up to my display. The only thing I'm using is my eyes and what I like. So, oh, guy just ran by me. My point is, I think when you guys ask for settings from these websites or from myself or from others, you forget to think about what you like. To me, this is a much more colorful, vibrant image than this one. This one's more realistic. I do prefer this one in more realistic titles, but as I was going back and forth with Devil May Cry, I ended up leaving some of these settings on by accident, as I didn't know if I was in HDR or not, and actually liked the other settings better. Now, it all depends on the content, guys. I wish there was one settings to rule them all. That's why I don't always fully believe in calibrating your displays and leaving them at one setting, because different movies dictate it. Animation dictates different settings than The Godfather, at least in my opinion. You know, I might be wrong. My plasma stayed pretty consistent, but what I'm looking for or trying to explain to you guys is don't let anybody tell you what you like. I know I'm not a professional TV calibrator, but even if I was one, I can't tell you what you like. I can tell you what's correct by the color gamut, and that's why I think a lot of us get caught up even in TV reviews, especially when it comes to Samsungs. You know, stay away from them. The color gamut's not correct. Well, they have a very wide color gamut. It all depends on if you like the Samsung look. There's nothing wrong with them. I actually like the way their TVs look. Or the color space, or it really depends on the kind of picture you guys like. So once again, we're going to go from, you know, looking at this image here, you know, a more natural image, to one that pops. Now, in some games as well, enabling a lot of these settings, especially settings like live color, for instance, in the game Doom, makes the colors bleed a little bit. There's a lot of reds, a lot of oranges. I wouldn't recommend doing that. Other games like Little Nightmares, Extended Dynamic Range pumps up the backlight and actually makes banding and things like that more evident. So it's kind of a game-by-game basis. So like I said, I'd love to be able to tell you this is what to set it to and leave it. For an example, go to Artings, find your display, go to AVS forums, and look up their calibrations. Vincent, love his channel, love his advice. It's just, are those settings that you're going to want in your own home? My plasma is very beautiful, and it's so good it almost doesn't look that great because it looks flawless. Flawless like regular TV viewing. Sometimes I want things to look cartoony or unreal. So it really depends on whatever your preference is. So my boy Gookie, you know, as far as the brightness, don't have it at max. My brightness is at freaking 30. Let HDR dictate your backlight, because all brightness and backlight's going to do a lot of the times is going to wash out your image. Even here with all these changes, my gamma is still at -1. And I like my gamma deeper. But the colors I want to pop, as long as the colors don't get too oversaturated and get fuzzy, then I'm completely fine with it. Devil May Cry, the issue was the game looked very oversaturated. So the more natural image looked washed out. So I'm happy with the way this image looks. This is a non-HDR title, guys. When HDR is enabled, I would suggest keeping the settings the way the display wants them to be. Just because you don't want to knock yourself out of HDR. It's the only issue I have with HDR settings is they do keep you from having all the flexibility. This also pertains to you guys that love to leave game mode for other modes, cinema mode, and you like to enable motion. I don't mind motion. I actually prefer it in some campaigns. Don't let anyone tell you that you can't, or you're an idiot because you're getting input lag. Or, guys, it's all about what you want and how you like it. And I'm here to help you in any way that I can. But this video is for you guys that don't want to put those settings on because someone told you that they're wrong or they're not accurate. To me, I like the way this image looks better. To me, it looks better than the more natural one. So that's just a quick settings video for you guys. A little advice on what to keep on, what to keep off, and just enjoy it and go by what your eye sees and enjoy it the way you want to see it. Thank you as always.